Hello. Hello. Welcome to the show. My name is Jacob Davidson. I'm in North Texas. I'm not a lawyer. This is a very ridiculous sounding intro, but I'm not a lawyer. I don't have a law firm. Hello. Welcome. I basically just woke up. I was trying to fight myself into waking up, and I had about 4 hours sleep. It'll be great. I'm talking to Gosney. It's going to be a great time. Welcome to the interview discussion, friendly fun time hour, I guess. It's going to be. I don't know how long I've got Gosney, but he'll probably tell me when I pull him up. So say hi to Mr. Gosney. There we go.
Hey, there he is.
Oh, wait.
How you doing? Woo, that's fun. How's it
Yeah,
going?
It's got the add remove on the bottom, and I was like, wait, why doesn't it have add? He's not on the screen. And then I remembered I just used the profile things down below.
Right.
But yes, hello.
Hey,
Hi.
what's happening? Yes, I haven't been streaming in a while. Haven't been inspired. And so maybe you're going to inspire me yet again. And I love
Hopefully.
helping out the young folk. This is like your first interview live stream, so I'm honored.
Well, if there's anyone to interview a potential judge, as what I heard
No,
like
no, no, no.
a month
Please
ago.
don't curse me like that. How dare you? I'll leave the stream.
Sorry. And so you're seeking that one job.
Well, no.
Oh.
Let's get it straight here. Okay, I've applied a bunch of times, and I've been rejected so many times. They don't want me on the bench. It's very clear. The last time I applied was simply to deliver a message to the committee.
Oh.
Yes, and that was to stop. Well, two reasons. One is that they need to get the fifth DCA needs to write more because they've got this big rubber stamp PCA, which is affirmed without opinion. And they need to stop that. And the way they need to stop it is get a commitment out of the judges as they're going on the bench to write. So that's number one. And number two is they only pick judges who on the district court, the appellate level, who've been judges. And they need to stop that too, because it's this monolithic judge brethren thing that needs to be broken up. And so I delivered my two messages and I was happy.
So it's basically like an incestuous relationship, and you just didn't like it with
right.
The
and so and I'm a truth teller, and they don't want that. They want ideologues and big money contributors and insiders, and I'm none of those things. So but I'm just there. I have the ability to do that, and I have the ability. And every time they reject me, it shows me that I don't belong there, and I don't want to be in there. So I'm actually happy as a clam. In fact, last time I applied, my son gets very upset with me because I get depressed. It's depressing to deal with rejection over and over again, right?
Yeah.
And especially when I know that there are other people that get in there that are not nearly as qualified, but have these inside tracks. So and it gets depressing, and my son gets angry. He's like, "Don't apply that anymore. Why do you keep doing that?" And I'm torn because I think that I always talk myself into it because I'm like, well, I have a duty to do the best for my family, and my son's growing up, and I need to be an example, and I need to push forward and do the best of my life, right? And but he's off to college now. So it's like, I don't need to be that example for him anymore. I don't need to show him that I can go and, move forward, and I don't need to make any more money than I'm making. And, but I'm sort of almost like in the habit, and I say, well, it's so easy for me to do it because I have the application and I know I'm more qualified than anybody else is putting in. Right. But my last time I did it, he got upset with me. He's like, "Dad, why are you doing this?" And he's right. He's right. So I'm done with that whole judge thing.
All right. I completely misunderstood what the judgeship thing was about. I thought you were actually earnestly trying to go for judgeship. So I was like,
well, the thing is like, it would be nice to be forwarded to the governor, but the committee is basically loaded up with insiders, and I am not an insider. I just am not. And so I'm an outsider. I think independently. I say what I think. I say what I believe, and I don't play political games. And I think those things are required, sadly.
Well, I'm glad to know. I'm glad to know that that you don't play the games, but it's sad to know that because you don't play the games, you probably won't get some kind of judgeship.
Well, I don't know. I mean, God has a path for you, every one of us. And, and I'm following you kind of, it's almost like you can feel when you're following God's will, because it's like a fish swimming upstream and it's hard, it's hard. And then all of a sudden you go with the stream and it's like easy, easy, easy. And so you kind of have to listen. And I'm not good at listening. I got to say, I'm a little bit stubborn. I'm a little hard-headed, maybe a lot hard-headed. And like when I was a prosecutor, I was a great prosecutor, and I was moving on up the ranks. And my goal was to be a death penalty prosecutor. Right? I went to the class. I was qualified to do death penalties. I went to the class for the prosecutors, but God was like, I don't want you on that side. I don't want you working for these guys. I don't want you over there. Right? And I was listening. I wasn't listening to him. And I'm like, no, but I'm good. The cops love me. I'm teaching. I'm good at it. I'll be really, and I wasn't listening. And he was giving me little hints along the way, like, no, I don't want you there. I don't want you there. But I wasn't listening. Don't tell me that. Because I want what I want rather than what you want, God. Right?
Thus saith the Lord, you will be a public
he kicked me in
defender.
the hindquarters real hard. And I
Yeah.
went flying off, and I was like, okay, well, I'll learn. He's gonna force me, and so he did. And so my life, and it's actually, I've landed in a good spot. At the time, it was very hard and painful, but I've landed in the place I should be. And I've been writing these books, and maybe that's my contribution. I've got some children's books in the works, and I'm doing this LawTube thing, whatever the hell it is. I don't know what it is, but I'm really doing that to promote the books. But it's also fun, and I'm making friends. I'm 54 or 55. How old am I? Something like that.
God, I'm half your age.
Yeah, but it's like at this point in my life to be making new friends. How cool is that? Usually when you get older, your friends kind of get solidified, and you have your group and your comfort zone, and you do your thing. But I'm making friends. I'm making new friends at this point in my life, and they're really neat people, and I'm all around the world, and I can go visit them. I'm going to maybe go to, my wife and I want to go to Ireland next year. And so there's some friends that I might like do like, what do you call it? Like a meet and greet.
Yeah.
And so I'm going to be going up to, in July 1st, I think we're till June 30th, July 1st, I think. Maybe the night of June 30th, I'm going to do a meet and greet up in Charlotte, North Carolina. So that'll be cool. And, I meet people, these like Diamonds and Henna I met down in Miami. And Danielle is in the chat, I see, and she's my mentoree. I love helping people out and mentoring them. And it's amazing the blessings around the world of people that you meet. And so anyway, that's that.
No, it's good. It's a good thing to talk about. It's a good thing for people to hear about, because things change in people's lives. And for you, as a 54-year-old, you would think that your friend group is solidified. And I got two things.
Mm-hmm.
One, you said you don't think you need to be successful anymore as an example for your son. I would.
Well, no, I didn't say successful. I mean, is being a judge successful? I mean, it's like, what is success? I don't know. I mean, I think that, is it making a lot of money? But if you're an evil human being, I think the first thing is, as an example, you need to be true. And that's true to yourself, honest with yourself, honest outwards honesty, and inwards honesty. And that's the foundation. And then, following God's will based on truth is the next step. So what is success? I don't know. I mean, that's the thing. I mean, you're always following your mission and following your pole star, and that's up to you. That's success. I mean, I think if you look at this guy, what's his name? Murdoch, the Murdoch trial we covered.
Yeah.
And that prosecutor kept on like, well, you're a big successful guy, using that kind of snarky, you're making $10 million a year. You're successful. And I think Burdock was right on the money. He's like, I don't think my life's been a success at all. You know, he got addicted to drugs, lost his son, lost his family, lost everything, humiliation. I don't think that that's successful.
I might have misunderstood what you meant for in the particulars of like. I guess what I gathered was like a a figure to lead an example for your son. You don't need to do that as much.
No, it's just
Uh,
that your son. It's interesting. I don't. Do you have any children? You seem awful young.
I do not. I want
Okay, fair enough.
kids, but
Are you single? Are you married?
I'm single. I'm working on myself first.
That's good. Well, and a man has a little more time than women. Thank God. We men, we do have that advantage. Although it's tougher. Men have their own challenge, and I think that when you're alone, in fact, we can talk about prepare.
Yeah, yeah. We
But
got them.
look here, right? See this. I will tell my people that are in the chatting by Monday. I should be getting the shipment in, so you'll actually any pre-orders will be getting the gold version.
Yeah.
But I will say that as a man, when you're unsuccessful in love, and it's a tough thing because I didn't get married till I was 30, and I thought I was very unlucky in love. And so, the part of it's a very tough thing because I think, especially when you're a young man, you're full of drive, and it's so overwhelmingly important when you're young and single, right? And
Yeah.
it's so easy to get wrapped up that my mission in life is to get a woman and to get married, right? And that's hard. It's because it blinds you to everything around you, right? And so it's easy for me to say in my married state, in this age of 54, with my son is 18 and go off to college. It's easy to say, well, here's what you need to do, kid. Because I've been there, and it's very heartbreaking and lonely and difficult and depressing when you are single, right? But really, what you have to do is reconcile yourself. Say, okay, assume I'm never going to meet anybody. Assume I'm going to be a single man. What is the positive thing that I can do for myself and for the world to make myself stronger and make myself a better person and make myself a better, I will say a better catch, but ultimately you are serving something greater than yourself. What is that thing that you could devote your life to, that cause, that mission, that would give your life value as a man? So and that's hard. I don't know. Like it may be a coincidence, but I met my wife when I did something that was very altruistic for my brother. My brother had never traveled outside the country, and I said, let's go travel so that you can, and he was writing a girl in the Philippines, right? So I was like, let's go there. We can scuba dive, and you can get out of the country and show, And I've met my wife when he was meeting his wife. So it's like, I don't know. I mean, doing things for others, helping them be better people, bringing the people around you to make them better, and find something that you're interested in. I think a lot of ladies too, they want to find the person they want. You lead. Like, so what are you interested in? Oh, I'm interested in, race cars, or I'm interested in whatever the thing that drives you to be, and devote yourself to that cause, and you will drive yourself to be the top of that hierarchy. And there will be ladies around there who will be interested in that too, and will look at you and say, okay, there's somebody who's interested in the same thing I am. And then you can join and be interested together. So I don't know. I'm talking, it might be singles advice, but it's easy when you're married. But this is the best I can do.
Yeah, it's always changing how the perceptions on dating. That's bound to just inevitably change the entire time as it's happening. Even then,
But making yourself a better man, a stronger person, is what what you can give the world, right? So and ladies are attracted to men who are strong and accomplished and who have a lot to give. What are you pulling? What's the? There's a. I'll pull this book on you, Gosney.
It's the I just wanted to show off that I got the very first edition.
Oh, you got a first edition.
Yeah, it's missing the chapter.
Yes, it's missing the prosecutor chapter, right? Which happens. It's funny because I deleted that chapter because it was getting real long, and I'm like, oh man, so I was thinking, well, this is very Florida specific, this chapter, right? And so I was like, what, which ones should I delete? And I was like, well, this one's so Florida specific, I'm going to delete that one. But it seems like that's the one everybody wants to read. So I don't know. I did send the first edition people a copy of the chapter.
I got the email. The email.
Okay, so cheers to you.
And then I think I bought the PDF version. I didn't get in on the discount code, unfortunately, because I didn't have them. You put a code.
Very rarely do I discount. That is like not. It goes against my grain. I hate, like, to me, there's a little falsity in it. And then the people that paid for it, it's like, I gave the discount code to people that had bought it, the first book, because I didn't want them to like feel ripped off. I actually emailed everybody who bought the first edition. I emailed them the new chapter. I said, if you want to buy the second one, here's a discount code. Because I felt I didn't want to rip you off. I didn't want to feel like you got something lesser, right? So I did everything I could to make it good for the people that supported their first edition, right?
Yeah. I'm probably going to buy a second edition copy so I can have the bigger, thicker book.
You're funny.
But yeah, that's I was really pleased to get that because I was afraid I would miss out on the opportunity because, like, you didn't need whenever you were like, yeah, I had someone was so gracious to like help design the cover to make it look a little better, I guess.
No, I just redesigned it.
You did?
Yeah, I did. I did the second cover also. I'm still not happy with it. I will say eventually there's going to be a third edition, and when I do that, I'm going to redo the cover.
I am misremembering a couple things here and there. Damn it.
No, you may be thinking, well, there's so much going on. This cover, but I paid them. This was my concept. This was my concept. I wanted a Maslow hierarchy of needs. I wanted a curve, a golden path, and I wanted the Christian fish. And it's sort of what I had somebody tell me that was a post-it note for the contents, which when you read this, you'll understand the symbology here. I want you to look at that and then be able to remember what's in the book just by looking at the cover. And I'm happy with that cover. The first one is kind of a little cliche. But there's a really cool program called 99 Designs, and it's basically you can pay them $800 and get a bunch of designers to compete to drive. And in fact, I did that. This cover and the back was designed by a guy that won the competition for 99 Designs, because I want it to be I really believe in giving quality and value. I mean, what I'm selling is books and rumble rants, I guess. That's the only way I make any money off any of this stuff, is through the purchase of the books. But it's not just about money. I mean, I want this book especially to get out in the wide world as much as widely as possible. In fact, I have a plan of action. Once I get those books in and they all shipped out, then I'm going to start promoting it in a way that I haven't promoted the first book. But anyway, we're just talking,
You move fast on those things. I was hearing from Rakeda.
I do.
He was like, if you probably heard him talk about how he thought the forward was going apace, and it turns out you needed it like yesterday.
Well, no, the problem is it's hard for me to like I said, it's hard to be me. Well, it's hard for people to understand what I'm like. I push very hard all the time on everything. Okay. And actually, I will tell you one of the chapters in Prepare.
Oh.
I'll read it for you. I can't wait for everybody to have this. So, see, then you can get my life advice. I can say refer to now that's all legal stuff.
Oh yeah, we had that moment. Like I think during one of your streams where you were like, you pulled out your ideas and answers.
Yeah, yeah.
And you're like,
Okay, page 141 is right here. Let's see if you can read it.
and God so loved his only child.
The moral imperative of spending your time wisely.
First small step. Yeah,
Yeah.
focused enough for me to read the text.
The first small step, getting rid of cable TV and brainless mass entertainment. And so one of the things is, that I really don't believe in wasting time. And it's sort of now I've been sick, and I've been sick for the last 4 or 5 days here. I'm just getting out of it. You might hear my voices a little bit, but when I'm sick, I can't even sleep because there's so many things I want to do, and I want, like, I've got a new idea for a book. In fact, a buddy of mine, somebody that my first time I've ever been recognized, like, on the street for being like me on YouTube or whatever, was up in Jacksonville. My wife and I went to mass up in Jacksonville. We went to a store and then we went to mass, and as we were leaving, somebody said, "Steve," and I said, "What?" I said, "Yeah." And they're like, "Oh, you're Steve Gosney. You've been on it." I'm like, "Yes." So they're like, "I saw you. I've seen you on Rumble. I thought it was cool." Anyway, she actually said, when I was saying I'm going to do 3rd edition on ideas and answers in law, I'm going to do a 3rd edition. And the 3rd edition will include my death penalty chapter, right?
Yeah.
But she suggested in one of my locals chats, she said, you need to break that out and do its own book. And so I did. I've actually been doing that, and I've actually got it all drafted and fleshed out. Let me see. So this is how these things here. See, like, look how much I've already got. Death penalty designs, understanding capital punishment in the United States.
Let's look at the width of it.
So this is now a lot of this is empty pages, all right?
But okay.
Here's how it works, though. So what I do is then I flesh out, and see, this is actually prep work for my incoming capital case. So see, here's my table of contents already.
All right. Forward preface: the death penalty case law. Why death penalty is a positive for society, negative for society. Summarizing the question: death is different. Death penalty aggravator system: the right to fair and impartial trial. Constitutional method of jury selection, due process, unanimity. The problem of aggravator creep. Death penalty must not be arbitrary. Proportionality, appellate issue in all cases. The politics of death penalty cases cited. Opponents, proponents to death penalty. Conclusion, thoughts, recommended article and book list, and about the author.
See there? So, and I will say, and so, like, some of these things that have been fleshed out more than others. The policy debate, for example, I've already got that pretty much outlined. Like, here's death penalty case law. I have a lot of this stuff kind of sitting around, and part of this is preparation for my. So it's just, and everybody is fascinated with death penalty. I gotta say, it's a disgusting thing. I mean, I've been contemplating this a lot. Is that human beings, we really love to revel in the abhorrent. There's something very rubbernecky about seeing a mangled body in a car as you drive by the accident, or watching the person climb the executioner's rack and the crowd chants and gets a bloodthirsty lust, or watching a capital case and the gruesome murder of somebody and getting all the hairy details. There's something bizarre and dark within the human psyche that attracts us to these things, and it's hard to quite understand where that comes from. I mean, I know that maybe psychologists and psychiatrists would be able to explain this to me a little better, but working in the system, and working, and I almost don't like working in the system because I feel I empower it. It's a very gruesome bit of business. It's a very dark and evil set of systems that we have built up around this. But also there's not really, people are so polarized. and they have their arguments. They have their knee-jerk arguments that they just and they jargon that you ask them the question, they spit back the answer, and you come back with something, and then they have their counter. And that's about the level of discussion that we get at the death penalty, right?
Yeah.
When it's asking the wrong question and people don't really understand each other, opponents or proponents are talking over each other. And so what I'm trying to do here is summarize all of the arguments on either side and the cases on both sides, so that, because like when I see people talk about this, I have like, okay, the first, when somebody is proponent for the death penalty, they think, well, the Parkland shooter should have gotten the death penalty because anybody who kills 17 kids, they need to be put away. Okay, that's their case, and it's an eye for an eye. That's the argument. Well, and then the people that on the other side, they always say, well, what about somebody who's actually innocent? And what about this guy who's been condemned to death and was actually exonerated off death row, and the possibility of that? And there's arguments, okay, but that's just like the first level argument. I've got about 24 arguments laid out against the death penalty as a public policy matter.
It goes deeper?
Huh?
The arguments go deeper?
Oh, yeah, way deeper. But probably get so wrapped up in our initial knee-jerk emotional reaction that we don't really look at it as a public policy matter. So I want to summarize both sides. I want to look at it fairly. I don't know if there's anybody else in the state of Florida who's actually gone through the qualification process for capital trial on the prosecution side, as well as death penalty qualification on the defense side. I think I'm the only one. I haven't heard, there may be others, but it's pretty rare. Like even doing capital appeals, which I'm a capital appellate lawyer, we have 3 people in our office that do it. We're adding a 4th because we're having 2 retirements. We're going to try to add a 5th because 2 people are retiring in the next couple of years. So, but let's assume there's 5 people in my office that do death penalty appeals. I'm one of 6. There's 6 districts. So if there's 5 attorneys in 6 districts, that means there's only 30 attorneys in the entire state of Florida that do capital appeals. That's out of 80,000 plus lawyers. So out of 80,000 plus lawyers, there's only 30 of us that do death penalty appeals. So it's a very elite kind of group. And so I'm thinking this is a perspective that I have that maybe I can give back. So I'm working on that. That's going to be, but that's a long-term project. The other one is My Difficult Dog, which is a children's book, which is so much happier and more pleasant than penalty stuff.
You got to get your head out of the darkness, because I'm thinking about this world I'm trying to step into, because my whole purpose, as the name says, legal layman, I'm looking into the law, I'm looking into the legal system, and I'm realizing it's almost like a microcosm of the worst possible things.
Yeah, now you're getting it.
And it's a darkness that you can push your head into, and you just got to get your head out of it sometimes.
Yeah,
otherwise
it really is. It is the worst. Hey, you got some comments. I wanted to say something. A couple people said I'm starting a YouTube channel. You know, I don't know. I mean, I've been debating that and all, and some of my close friends who are helping me have talked about that. I mean, I don't know. In fact, my next Rumble stream, I'm probably going to have a discussion with everybody about what they think I should do on that regards. First of all, I don't like the YouTube free speech bans, and I want to support a free speech platform. I don't know. We're going to talk about that later. And then also, Just Jurors also says, I feel bad for the person whose job it is to flip the switch. That has to stick with him, I would think. Well, see, one of the arguments against the death penalty as a public policy matter is that people, I mean, there is a juror regret issue. Once that juror decides, and it has to be currently, now I got to say, I'm a big DeSantis fan, but I am very much against his pro-death penalty stance. He's very aggressive, and he's trying to change the law. to make it a non-unanimous jury, which I'm extremely against, to put somebody to death. But the problem is that if you there are people that vote for death on a death penalty jury and then have to live with that decision for the rest of their lives, and then the blood becomes on their hands, and it's a conscience thing. So you may be pro death penalty now, and that juror may be, but in 10 years, the circumstances may change, and then they have this guilt within their heart that they participated in that system.
Yeah, I've been thinking about it quite a bit because in Texas there is I did a super chat as a homework for you a while ago that you said, "Nah, I'm not going to do that."
What was that?
It's understandable.
What was your homework?
I told you it was or at the time it was like there's a guy named Tanner Horner who's being who the prosecution's seeking to give the death penalty to in
my
Texas.
life, you're talking about my life. My job is doing these cases right now. I don't do death penalty all the cases. Thankfully, they aren't that common. It's quite rare. But my life is cases and cases coming in at one after the other. So for you to say to me, go look at this case outside your jurisdiction for fun, that's not fun to me. I mean, that, it's like, that's work. And I'm not doing this for work. I'm doing this to get away from that, right? So it's like everybody's got injustice and they want me to solve it. The world's injustice lays on my shoulders. Well, I can't solve the world's injustices, my job is to handle the cases that are put in front of me as they come in. So I recognize it's part of a broader conceptual thing. There are other attorneys in other jurisdictions that have that job is to handle that case, right?
Yeah. I think the purpose of mentioning that at the time was just to kind of like have like a topic in mind, but I don't know.
You don't need a topic. We can talk all day. I can talk all day on anything.
I don't know. I say I don't know a lot.
Well, but that's okay. But this is why you brought me on, right?
Yes, it was I think the reason I brought it up at the time was because I knew what you do, what your main job seems to be, at least as you've conveyed, at least as I understand it. And I was like, maybe this could work into a topic, into a show. And it's like,
let's talk about what my job actually is. Okay. So I do criminal appeals for the 5th District Court of Appeal, which we just traded Orlando for Jacksonville. So that means that if the suitcase murder case is tried, I will be able to cover that on Ricada, because I used to cover Orange County and that appeal would come my way. But since we traded Orange County for Jacksonville, I can then now cover that case, right?
Yeah.
So, but what happens is, let's assume the suitcase killer gets death or life in prison, right?
Yeah.
And then when they say, okay, you've been sentenced to life in prison and you have the right to appeal within 30 days. And if you can't afford a lawyer, one will appoint it for you, right? Well, what's the client say? The first thing they say is, what was that about lawyers and appeals? I just got life in prison. So they say, I want to appeal. So the trial attorney files a notice of appeal. Once that happens, the entire record is generated. It's all the pleadings that were filed, the motions that were done, all the orders, all the hearings are transcribed, the trials transcribed, the sentencing hearings transcribed, and all that stuff's put into an electronic format. It used to be in paper, but now it's an electronic format, and it hits my desk, and then it's like, okay, find an issue. And so what I do is I read through every piece of paper in the entire record, front to back, and I look for issues, and it's called issue identification. I see if there's any issues that are appealable. 50% of my cases, I find something. The other 50% of my cases, there's nothing. If there's nothing, then I do what's called an Anders brief. I summarize the facts in the law that were given below, and I move to withdraw. And the reason is because I give them a factual summary of what I perceive is in the case and how it went down. And then I withdraw because I can't argue against my client. I can't say there's no issues in this case, because if I say there's no issues in the case, I'm arguing against my client, you see. but I also have a duty to my client, and I also have a duty to the court of candor and honesty. So I do a summary of what happened, and then I move to withdraw because I say, it's called an Anders brief. So
I remember that term, actually. I've been listening to all this enough to where I remember the term Anders brief.
Right. So that's generally what I do. Then that's like every other attorney in my office. We have about 20 attorneys in my office that do this for a 13 county area in Florida, right? A capital case, I've got a capital case incoming, and one of the reasons I'm writing this book about death penalty is to beef up my knowledge of death penalty cases, because I don't do them that often, and I want to really make sure I know my issues. So it's a good practice. So I'm researching. So a lot of government employees may just sit at their desk and twiddle their thumbs, but I do research and I write articles. Like, say, I also advise the trial division. So I advise the trial division with questions. So I'm always in the background strategizing and educating. I train the trial division. I also train the appellate division. So any new attorneys that come into our appellate division, I give them a call to an appellate boot camp, and I mentor anybody who wants to be mentored. So I train the people in the trial division and the appellate division. So I do that. What else do I do? That's sort of my job. So and I'd strategize. Like, I'm behind the scenes. I'm also death penalty qualified for jury selection. So when there's a capital jury selection case, there's a process by which you pick juries in a death penalty case. It's very complex. It's about a week-long training session, and we have to practice that. So we do faux jury selections. When we do a death penalty case, we'll do jury selections, and I'll participate in that. So I'm part of that team. Now, then outside of that, like, the first book was just a compilation of a lot of writings that I'd done to advise the trial division on issues, or they came out of appeals that I thought were unjust. There was a problem with the law, or a problem with what happened in an appeal. And so most of those are real world cases. In fact, all of them are. So, and then of course, this book is more about philosophy and about life and about freeing your mind from traumas of childhood, tyrannies of external tyrannies. And I can't wait to get that one out. That one's more of a life work for people, not just law.
Yeah. Speaking of conceptually something from that book, I've been getting into the Bible lately. It was more like just to learn what was in it, and I got really invested through Genesis to Esther. And then I got to, so it's like, after Esther, it's Psalms, right?
Well, you're better than me. I don't know. Old Testament stuff, man. I don't know. You tell me.
Yeah, after Esther, it's Psalms, Proverbs, Songs of Solomon, and then it gets into the prophets. So like Job, Isaiah, Ezekiel, that area.
Right.
I was really enamored learning the history, and when learning through the history, it's kind of like spiritually invigorating.
No, absolutely. That's a great exercise. I have a friend of mine who's, and I'd say I was nominally Christian for most of my upbringing, and I went to a Baptist school for undergrad with Stetson. It just left as Southern Baptist Convention, but there were 2 Bible study classes that were required, and it was great. That was the best thing I ever did. And I remember all the really hardcore fundamentalist Southern Baptists didn't like it, because they were like, "What are you talking about? God wrote it with his hand. It was in English, and it was the King James version. It came down, and God said it, and I believe it," right? And I was never of that ilk. And when I got explained to me about the Bible and where it came from and the history and how it was put together, and it's as an expression of faith, as an expression of understanding moral dilemmas that we humans confront across the spectrum, and the Christian solution as it revealed through the Gospels and the New Testament and the faith of the early church, and what that empowers you and allows you to move, and to fly and to become free. It really was inspirational. So that's a great exercise. Can you hold on just 1 second here?
Yeah, I can wait. Hi guys, welcome. Thank you for showing up. You probably came here to watch Gosney talk, and I don't blame you. I also am very happy that he accepted all this. I'm glad he took some time out of his day. I forgot to ask how much time he had for this. We got lost in the conversation pretty much right away. Hello, thank you, Just Yours. I saw you say you're new and learning and I will support you. I don't know if you were talking to Gosney about that for the YouTube thing or if you're talking to me, but if you're talking to me, thank you. You're
You talking to me? You're talking to me? No, I'm honored that you asked me on for your first live interview. That's cool, and I wish you all the best. So we're just talking faith, and read the Bible. It's not a textbook. It's not a physics textbook. In fact, and it is required. I will tell you, prepare. The only place you can get it is stevegosney.com for both. But there's 2 chapters in here that are faith chapters. All right. And I am of the strong opinion that faith is required in order to be free. All right. And I'm also of the strong opinion that that people have faith in this society, but they have placed it into vessels that are unworthy of that faith. They have become idolatrous. The first commandment, put no God before me. And that is a commandment. Now, the Old Testament has Old Testament knowledge and wisdom. And what's happened is people have supposedly lost their faith. They haven't lost their faith. They still have faith. What they've done is they've placed it in idolatrous concepts. For example, legality. They've placed their faith in the legal system, or they place their faith in government, or they place their faith in Gaia and the creation, or they place faith in money or themselves or ego. There's a million different idolatrous concepts. And actually that is very fleshed out in this book. In the 2 chapters, the first is preparing for emergencies with faith. Right?
strong faith is essential
Faith is essential
adversity.
when encountering adversity. You're trying to peek ahead. I see. And
I mean, you were showing it.
I know. And then the other one is a Christian path. Your faith,
your faith is worthy of your life. What faith is worthy of your life?
What faith is worthy of your life? And this is the question. Because is government worthy of your faith? And so I really, I ask these questions, and so there are 2 chapters in the books that are explicitly Christian, and I'm not hiding it. And that's why I've had this originally. I didn't have the fish on there, but as I thought about it, I'm like, you know what? I lay my cards on the table. I tell you who I am, what I am. And when I got done, those 2 chapters, I got to say, were the hardest 2 chapters for me to write after the initial part 1, because laying out your faith is very difficult, and writing is very difficult, and so I did the best I could with what I had. But when I was writing it, I really came to the conclusion that you must have faith. Everybody's got faith. Faith is essential for freedom. And the faith in what you place your faith in has to be worthy of that commitment, worthy of your life. And I've only found, like I said, what faith other than Christianity, what is your competitor vessel that you feel is worthy of your life? I don't know of any. There are other religions, but do you really know them? Do you know Christianity? Do you really know it? Because most people dismiss it and they project onto Christianity what they think it is without having read the Bible, without having looked inside themselves and see if those messages, those human messages across time, are reflected in their hearts. Have you really understood it enough to reject it? And most people haven't. They just have these delusions about what the world is and what's in the Bible and what Christians are. And they're, It's projection, and they become like they define themselves by what they aren't. I am anti-fascist. I'm a anti or a anti-misogynist, or they define themselves by this negative. I'm worthy because Hitler was evil and fascists were evil. Okay. So I want to be good. So what's good? It's anti-evil, and evil is fascism. So therefore I'm anti-fascist, therefore I'm good. That
It's
is
almost a fallacy.
It is a fallacy. It is a, and what it is it's a commitment. It's a faith commitment, because that anti-fascist mentality is fulfilling a faith need within their evaluation need within their soul, but it's misplaced valuation.
It kind of reminds me of this moment in a show. I'm not very familiar with it, but this moment I watched through a clip. It's called Peaky Blinders. It's like a pre-World War II crime boss organization in Britain, or the kingdom, and there's this guy who's setting up business with the main character, and the main character's got his brother alongside him. The guy that they're about to do business with, I think his name's Solomon in the show, and the brother, Solomon's not very. He's not filtered, even when talking to this main character crime boss guy, and he's watching as the brother gets angrier and angrier at like insults towards I think character or name. And he takes a moment and stops and refers to the brother and is like, that right there, you got the man with a righteousness, a righteous anger. He will fight to hell and back for you. And it's like, I didn't really think about that before that, but then but it suddenly starts clicking after that moment whenever I saw it. People who feel that they're righteous in their cause will have the strongest fight, and I think they might end up becoming more wrong on these like earthly things. Like,
absolutely. Well, righteous indignation is something that is powerful. It's actually much more dangerous to deal with. I've dealt with this myself. I get righteously indignant sometimes, and and it's a danger. I'm aware of that about myself at this point in my life. But see, it's easy to justify yourself. Like if something happens to you and you screwed up, you did something bad, and you get bad consequences, then it's like, oh, okay, I get it, right? I did something wrong. I'll make my correction. But when you do something that is correct and right and morally good, let's say, and you get punished for it, then you become righteously indignant. All right. And then that justifies anger and hatred. And that, in fact, I even talk about this in the book. I could probably even read it to you if you want.
only if you want.
But it talks about, and I got in a hole that I couldn't get out of because I was drawn down into that pit of anger and hatred, and it's in my heart felt it. Now I knew that it was dragging me down, and it was hurting my family, but I couldn't help it because it's like I was trapped. And as you get older, maybe you get a little more humble, but I was humbled because I was trapped, and I was not a big enough man to overcome those hatreds. And thankfully, and I was, God pulled that hatred out of my heart. I remember the moment. It was during the Lord's Prayer, when it was in the Mass, when it said, "Forgive us our trespasses as we forgive those who trespass against us," which I've said a million times. But at that one time in Mass, it was like the realization was, wait a second, I am a flawed human being. I'm just a human. I'm unworthy. I'm humble. I'm a sinner, right? Do I want to be judged by the hatred I have in my heart? Because that's that's the standard. As I go before God, I'll be judged by that hatred that I'm projecting outwards. Forgive us our trespasses as we forgive those who trespass against us. If I'm holding on to this righteous indignation, that is the standard by which I will be judged. And I didn't want that. And it's God, and God said, good job, Stevie. Good job, Stephen. I'm pulling that right out of my heart, and I was able to move forward. And yes, Danielle has got it. See, well, you know Danielle. Come on, Danielle knows she's my pal.
I'm meeting your audience.
Yeah,
They're great. They're very friendly.
Two things that I really, and it's in Prepare. You'll hear about it in the faith chapter, which is the two things that helped me tremendously. And and everybody's different. There's lots of ways to come at faith, but humility and gratitude are the two things that I always have to remind myself of. Be grateful for what you have, the blessings you've been given, and the cards you've been dealt. Sometimes there's some hard cards. Sometimes, some people are blessed with beauty, health, intelligence, and wealth all at once, and they got all these great cards. And you got a few, maybe your health is bad, or maybe you're poor, or maybe you didn't have a dad, right? Whatever those cards were that you were given. It's like, man, and you look to that other person, you're like, jealousy burns in your heart. But you don't compare yourself with others. You really have to compare yourself with who you were yesterday and who you can be tomorrow. And accept the cards that you have. Be grateful for the good ones that you've been given, for the life that you have been given life. So I really think that those are the two. Now, Christianity is so broad. And one of the things that I always get a little ruffled about is my fellow Christians. They say, this is the way it is. If you don't believe in the God, George Noted, they have a little there. You believe in the God, Lord, your Savior, because it says only one way. And they've got all these justifications for their way is the way. Okay. No. There's a million ways to access Christianity. And it is a personal journey. It is a personal faith founded on truth. And you have to be honest with yourself. But you have to find it through your heart. The path to Jesus and the path to Christ is up to individual. It's your personal journey to Him, and and it accepts. It's big enough church that it can accept a lot of different ways to that path. My way is not your way. I don't have your answer, but I can share with you how on my path found it, but it's going to be unique for every individual. And so I don't like it when it's an exclusionary thing sometimes when I hear people saying, I've got the way and this is the way and it's my way and that's it. They don't know. They didn't talk with God.
Yeah, and inevitably everyone's walk through life ends up being a little differently, yeah. And I haven't gotten to a point where I have had righteous indignation. I think maybe a couple times, but it was like a very small one for the moment, and it goes away. But I've learned over the course of wrath.
Well, and
it
we
might
have
be
one of the things in faith. Here, I'll read you one of this because this is right on the path here.
It might be because I'm young and I've got a lot of energy, but it's just it's almost bothering how noticeable it is whenever I look inside sometimes.
Let's see here. I'm going to read you. This is just for your audience here. You get a steep preview.
Thank you.
If I can find it.
Mind you, right now, this audience right now is your audience as well.
No. This is all fun. See, I probably need to do a search.
Uh-oh.
Let's see here.
If only you had a PDF version of this.
I will. It'll come out. It's just give me a break. I got so much to do.
No, you've already done I can just tell so much.
I wanted to read it to you, but I will say that everybody knows. There's something called the 7 deadly sins. This is I'll just come at I'll wing it from my brain right now. You've heard of the 7 deadly sins.
Yes, pride, greed, wrath, lust. Pride, wrath, greed, lust, sloth, envy.
Gluttony.
Thank you. And
Gluttony.
Gluttony, yeah.
Okay, so the thing is, like, one or more of those you have within you. And if you were honest with yourself, you know which one it is or which ones it is, right?
Yeah.
You know those things. So your challenge is to discipline yourself against those. Like, for example, I went to Vegas. I don't have any interest in gambling at all. That is not my sin, right? It's like I am not interested. It's, gambling machines. It's just so irrational to me. The bing, 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 and it's noisy. It annoys me, and I have like zero desire to that. Same with like smoking a cigarette or doing drugs. So those are not my sins. Now I have my sins, but I know what they are, and they're here, right?
Yeah.
But you've got to be honest with yourself. If your sin is, if you are tempted by that gambling or whatever the weakness that you have, direct your faith and gird your discipline to protect yourself against that failing, to make yourself a better person, right?
Yeah.
It's kind of that the value of using your time wisely, the moral imperative of using your time wisely. So he says, I don't know how Steve gets it done. Well, it's because I know how to work. I'm very efficient at working. Not this week. I've been sick. But when I'm at work, I'm working, and I don't know. I mean, this is hard stuff. It's not easy. I mean, this first book took me 8 years of writing. Now the second book took me, 8 months. But it's a lot of work. It was not easy writing, and it's a lifetime of knowledge. It's a lifetime of preparing. It's not something that you just stumble into. You build wisdom. It's not something you just throw off. Now I will say a lot of it, like My Difficult Dog, I wrote in a day. It's a short little children's novel, but the idea has been germinating for a long time. And so, like, My Difficult Dog, I just think about it and I put it together, and then I came up with something, and then I just wrote it. It was inspiration. So inspiration strikes. Now here's some tricks, right? How do you get it done? Well, I have these little yellow stickies, right? Like, see here, here's on this. Yeah, look at this yellow sticky right here, for example. What's it say? Deathpenaltyinfo.org and YouTube debate. Okay. So what I've got to do is I'm going to email myself on my death penalty book. I was talking with my buddy, Rosemary Peoples, who's doing the Fucci trial, the Fucci sentencing, death or sentencing. You know about that case, right?
No, I actually don't.
It's a case. I'm working on that too. It's a very nasty case here in Florida, and she's the lead counsel. And I was going back and watching some of the stuff, but she talks about deathpenaltyinfo.org is a good resource and repository for death penalty information. So I'm going to make sure I tap into that resource when writing my death penalty book. So there's a little idea. I said, okay, I got to write that and remind myself when I'm in front of my computer to do that. And then YouTube debate, like my next Rumble stream, whenever that may occur, probably next week sometime. One of the topics I want to talk to my Rumblers about is about, should I have a YouTube channel? And if so, because from my understanding, YouTube rewards very specific content. And see, I like talking about everything. I like talking about guns and guitars and music, philosophy, law, children's books.
Yeah.
Helping people, Christianity. It's not very focused. I like interviewing people. I like talking to people like yourself. And so it's up in the air. I got law cards coming out too, right? You know about law cards?
Yeah, I saw that. I might be able to get into it. I get paid this Friday, so
okay, yeah.
I'm like fingers crossed. Hopefully I get to do that.
Do a $10 Kickstarter. Get on the Kickstarter. We're almost there. We're only like $300 away from having it fully funded.
Yeah,
Farmhand Tom and me are doing that.
Speaking of Farmhand Tom, I have a recommendation for him. With he made your current website as it is, right?
Yes.
The Gosney.com?
Yep.
I had a recommendation because I left my own notepad. It's not yellow sticky notes. It's the actual notepad app.
Right.
Because so recommendation for Farmhand Tom. When you click a link on the website, this might be personal choice. It might be preference. I think you should open up a new tab for the thing that you clicked, because I was on the website. I clicked on your locals page, and it took me away from your site to the locals page.
Right. Interesting. Well, you know, I see. I'm such a soft seller. You know, if you want to be there, great. You know, if you want to see me, come over to Rumble, right? I mean, it's like I don't want to force anybody to listen. You know, if you don't want to listen to me, then turn me off. Don't listen to me, right? So, I mean, you know, if you want to click away, you can always come back. You know, I'm not trapping you. Right? It's like,
Nah, but it's like,
I don't
from
know
my
what to do with
perspective,
locals is my question. Is I don't know what locals. I've been using it to like announce where I'll be. Like I said, I was going to be on here tonight. So I was like, I don't know what you do with locals exactly. I mean, you can subscribe to my locals channel. I don't think you have to pay anything. You just subscribe to it. And I've just been using it as my notifier. But other
well,
than that, I'm not sure what it does.
what you do with locals is you get a contract job or a contract pay with them, and then you start doing content.
But see,
At least that's the
I don't
Ricada
believe
way.
in that. I don't want to like, see, I don't want to like, oh, you must pay to get my exclusive content. I don't believe in that. I mean, it's like, okay, I'm just proud that you're listening. I'm happy that we've got people, you know, each individual that's listening. I'm happy for that. You know, and these people bought my book. I mean, what more can I ask? This is what I want you to read it. I don't want you to just buy it. In fact, don't put it on the shelf and read it. You know, get it when you get it. I want you to read it, and I want you to tell me what you think. I mean, it's a dialogue. And part of it, you know, we're talking about how you get these things done. So inspiration, I write on these stickies because inspiration can hit any time. I have a pad in my shower. I do my best thinking in the shower, and I'll write down what my ideas. And sometimes, and what'll happen, I go to bed and I'm asleep at night, and then I'll get an inspiration. And the problem is, I'll get 1, 2, and 3. And once I get to 3, I've got to get up because I can't sleep. So I write down the 3, and then I set it back down. Then I go to sleep. And then I wake up and I remember what my idea was. The inspiration can hit anytime. And you can't just sit and say, okay, I'm going to be inspired now. Inspiration is always coming at you. So capture that inspiration when it occurs, enough to remind yourself to when you go back and you're working that you can take that germ of an idea and then develop it. Now, let me explain that. As you develop it, writing is a developmental tool. And again, I'll use prepare as an example because my son actually said, and this is my great son, so I love him so much. He said, this is the best idea I've ever had. So when your son says that, you better darn well write it, right? And I will tell you the entire first part of the book is called Part 1, The Individual.
Yeah.
Okay. This part is that idea. Now, I will say, if you go back on my Rumble channel, you can go dive back. You'll see the development of this idea through conversation. All right. First part is the right to eat dinner and other conservative conundrums.
What? The right to
What
eat
is
dinner
the
and other
individual in a
conservative
free
conundrums.
society? You got to read. You'll see. It's good. And this was my initial setup of like, I have a friend who was poking me about originalism. The next one is this. Look at this one. Look at this chapter.
The problem of rights. Man is not property. We're more than that.
Right. And then we've got, and so this is all development of this idea. And then here is this one.
The Maslow hierarchy of needs. Understanding human needs to account for them in your life plan.
Right.
Yeah.
And then this is all part of this one idea. And then here's this one.
Visualizing a free life over time, adding the missing element of time to the Maslow pyramid.
Right. And then
what I like about this current thing that
Hey,
we're doing is my one-off stream is going to have more of your book content reveal. A new vision of the individual, the Maslow pyramid traveling along the curve of life.
See, now this little idea right here, that's my friend Derek Brooks, by the way, who I talk about. He passed away about 18 years ago. But this right here, that is the idea the conception of the individual. And like, you have to see the curve in the Maslow hierarchy of needs. So it was a problem of originalism and of discussion of rights, and defining rights as an individual is too limiting. And if we define individuals as a bundle of rights, that concept will lead us inevitably to tyranny. So that idea then says, well, Gosney, what's your brilliant idea? Because I always want to think about the solution, right? Okay, I've
Ideas and
identified a
answer.
problem. Huh?
Ideas and answers.
Exactly. I don't feel it's easy to criticize. It's hard to come up with a solution. That's a lot of the young people are like, oh, I'm going to protest racism, down with racism, and let's protest. And oh, you're so morally superior. You've got all the answers in the world. Let's hear them. That's your idea. What's your great contribution to this world? Gee, if you had been around last year, we would have solved the world's problems. Aren't we glad we're blessed by all these people that are shouting down, these people that are trying to communicate? You don't have any idea. All they have is a criticism. So I always try to look at myself, say, okay, I'm a critic. I'm going to say, okay, that's wrong. Something's wrong with this idea, and it bothers me. But then I want to say, okay, well, what's my alternative idea? And that was the expansive view of the individual, because ultimately I'm a big believer in individual rights. And so foundationally, we are more than a bundle of rights. Defining ourselves as a bundle of rights is a recipe for tyranny. So the alternative vision is an expansive view of those rights. And originally I used C.S. Lewis's vision, but I switched it to a more secular view, which was the Maslow hierarchy of needs, and then saw that it was missing this time dynamic of that arc, and that arc of consciousness over time. You see, let me show you this again. Because see there?
Yeah. Arc of time.
You see, so now we're born and we die. You see that, those two little circles?
Mm-hmm.
As we are born, we are not free. We are enslaved. We are under the thumb of our parents. And at some point we slip into senility and we become dependent on those around us. But at some point in early adulthood, let's assume, it could be anywhere between 16 to 24 or whatever, you hope to cross this curve of consciousness and self-discipline, so that you are actually somewhat in control of your life. And that period of time above the line on the curve is the period in which you are absolutely free. And as you're free, you focus on those Maslow needs. And at different points in your life, those different needs are required. Like when you're first starting out, you're worried about your home, and you're getting safe and making sure you're in a safe home and gathering together your wife, and then you're building a family, and those needs change over time. The priorities change, but as you travel through time, the key is to maximize that period of individual freedom, and that's the best that we can do. But it talks about that. So that my son thought that was a great idea. So I thought, there you go. I don't want to waste all your time. I know we're just chatting, but
no, I'm actually, I had a question. I have a lot of things in my mind right now. I don't want to cut the flow of what you got. How much time do you have? So I'm not stepping over
until my wife gets home with the pizza.
All right, that's fair. When do you think that might be?
Probably within the half hour.
Oh, okay. So half hour left.
Maybe,
all right.
Or maybe plus or minus. I don't know. She called. That's when I cut out. She told me she was going to go get pizza. So she's at work.
You want to meet someone?
I'll meet anybody. You don't want to.
It's your interview. All right, peek your head over. I have my name.
What?
My name has kind of a literal meaning. Not quite the other side of it, not the name change, but I have a brother who looks like this. It's so annoying.
You have an identical twin?
Oh yes.
Really? Cool.
I had him out of the room because we're not.
Oh, he's not that identical. He's quite furry.
Well, he's individualized. He's doing his own thing.
Rock on. Do you like metal?
Individualized. Proceeds to
Yeah.
No, it's this. It's
We're
double horns down.
yeah. I do this. This has been my thing for a while.
That's shaka. That's Hawaiian for hang loose.
Yeah, that's my sign off. Actually, I did
Okay.
it first time. I remembered
What's your brother's
at the
name?
very Samuel.
Hey, Samuel. What do you are you? Why the long hair and the beard? To be different from your brother, or are you into some social subgroup that requires this?
Why the long hair and beard? Is it to be is it your own thing, or is it to be in a social subgroup or something?
social subgroup? What the fuck is that?
It's not a social subgroup.
No, well, it's
He's
okay.
just-
I'm in a metalhead.
I just like the look. I guess I like the look.
My son has got long hair. He's in college, so he can get away with it.
The funny thing about meeting Steven,
Yes.
I found it a little funny whenever you introduced him. I thought Stephen Gosney. It's like
Right, I know. Well, that's a little confusing. And I was working on it, but my son has decided that he wants to be Steven with an N. And he's actually Steven C. He's not a junior. Come on, you can join the crowd. Come on.
no, it's just
so
it's hot
when
in
I
the
was
room.
deciding what to do, I put it as stevegosney.com because so that I'll be Steve, because I don't care what you call me. I mean, you call me whatever, as long as I know you're talking to Gosney, whatever your name is, you know, as long as I know I'm being addressed, I don't care. But this is what I resolved because my son is got the N in the middle there. So he's the Steven. I'm the Steve.
Yeah,
I'm a metalhead. What kind of music do you like? We can talk music.
Oh, the kind of music I like is it's very not Western, as it turns out. I listen to it's a lot of things, but to nail it down to a particular category, have you heard of anime?
Yes.
The music that either openings that introduce you to the actual anime itself, or like the soundtrack that is in it.
Okay, I have some homework for you.
Okay.
Go look a band called Asterism. Asterism. It's a Japanese band that plays these anime intros in a rockin' musical way. Asterism.
I was thinking about, I don't know why I didn't. I was thinking about listening to Meshuggah.
Oh yeah, well,
I remember
that's an acquired taste. I'll tell you that. Have you ever listened to metal?
I've listened to. Now don't roll your eyes at this. Listen, Linkin Park, Breaking Benjamin, and I like Sabaton. I'm a real big fan of Primo Victoria. Outside of that, it's mostly like Japanese rock bands, but it's mostly incidental to. If it's a part of the show that I'm watching, I like it.
So check out Asterism. That's my first recommendation.
Asterism.
Asterism. Yeah, right.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. My son likes punk. Just Jurors asked me about punk. Bad Religion, on Pennywise and the like. My son is much more of a punk than I am. He likes some extreme bands. He what's the name of this? He likes Meshuggah. I went to the Meshuggah concert. I gotta say, my wife and son liked it more than I did. It was violent. It was violent. It was constant pummeling. I like a little melody and a little bit of interest. It's so just.
I think I like songs with like a narrative to it in a way.
Try another band you might like is called Mastodon. That Mastodon. Listen to that band. There's some great stuff on that. Like their newest album is great. Their EP they have. You might like them. Yeah. What's the name of the band he likes? There's a band that he likes. It's called Death Grips. And it's
I think I've heard of them vaguely. I don't know if it's here or if I heard it from my coworkers.
Yeah, he's tuned into these bands. It's like you don't get it, Dad. It's my generation, which is cool. I'm glad the new generation has music they're listening to that's like that I'm not clued into or I'm not,
I must have
connecting
missed the
with.
new generation marker because I don't
Well, how
really.
old are you?
I'm 24.
Oh, you're a young pop. See, you got a long way to go.
Sadie is very happy to mention the you crowd surfing. I
Right.
remember that.
Well,
Uh,
the thing is I'm generally not a big crowd surfer. Um, I was younger. I did it a couple times, but I'm more of the mosh pit guy.
oh yeah, I
Yeah, I
remember
love the
that.
mosh pit. And mosh pits, some of the mosh pit. I got to be careful though, because I'm not really that physical. But when you got to check out the mosh pit and see, like, make sure it's a cool mosh pit. I don't know. After a while, you get to know your mosh pits, and there has to be like, if you've got like a big guy who's a jerk, it destroys it. It's no fun. If you've got the big guys that are kind of what I call the sheepdogs, they will keep the crowd. They'll keep everybody under control. If people aren't, and usually I would say metal mosh pits are much cooler than punk mosh pits. Punk mosh pits are much more chaotic, much more violent, much more like pound and in your face. Whereas the metal mosh pits are more organized. They tend to be circular, and you can kind of go with it. And you kind of bounce around. It's like a pinball machine. Um, and so what I usually do is check out the key. And this mosh pit I went to was at the Ginger concert. And Ginger is like my favorite band right now. The favorite current band right now is Ginger by far, definitely. I also am really into Tool and Mastodon. I've been listening to a lot of them, but Ginger is just great. And there was 2 or 3 guys. The big guys were really cool guys. And this one guy looked like Fabio. He was in this shirt. He had the long hair. He's a good looking guy, big old muscle.
Shirt wide open.
Yeah, yeah. And and I was in the back, and there was this one guy who was in the mosh pit the whole time, and he was wearing a bra. He was complete. He had an anarchy tattoo, and he's all muscly, and he had a bra, and he was nuts. And I'm standing next to him. I'm like, this guy's gonna be an idiot. But no, he was really cool, and he was in the mosh pit the whole time. Really cool guy. The pit was very cool, and then there was a couple really big guys that were not throwing elbows. They were keeping everybody in line. And so of course I went through the pit a couple times, and then I got up front. You can move up to the front with a pit. You circle around to the front. I like to be behind the pit so you can see the pit and the band's behind it. So I like center stage behind the pit. That's my favorite spot. But then sometimes I move up so you can get up closer to the band, and then you got to watch out because the people get past and they hit you in the head as they're coming over top, right? So you got to watch out. Well, people are going, and once the girls start doing the girls start getting past, it's cool, right? And this big guy, and he'd look over to me every time, like there'd be, when the pit primes come, and we'd look over and we'd start slamming, and and so we did that a couple times. He was real cool. And so I was like, cool, man. And I said, hey man, lift me up. So he did. He lifted me up, and like rolled to the front. I kind of rolled like a log. It wasn't quite the surf, but you can see that on the, I had it edited because people were interested in that. So I had it edited because it was captured on video. So you can go on my Rumble channel and see me.
I think I was at work when I saw that.
Crowd surfing the Ginger mosh pit. The coolest mosh pit, that was a great mosh pit. A great one was Animals as Leaders. What a great mosh pit that was. That was the most intelligent mosh pit I've ever been around. I mean, they knew these songs. It's all instrumental. And they knew when to pogo. They knew when to circle pit. They knew when to do everything. It was choreographed chaos. It was beautiful.
Choreographed chaos.
Yes.
The best kind. The planned one.
Kind. Yes.
I have a band recommendation for you. It's not metal in the way that I think you're probably used to it. But have you heard of Whiskey Dick?
Nope. I'll write down because I listen to these things occasionally. I'll find a band that I like from recommendations. So what is it?
Whiskey Dick.
Okay. I will look at them.
Hopefully you like them. I like them. And apparently my mom likes them enough to have married one of the band members.
Oh, okay. All right. There you go.
That was one of the... Oh, sorry.
What else? I'm just talking like another one is the... I like kind of... I like thrash. I like shredders. I like classic metal, and I like gent. So those are really kind of, if I'm going to pick my poisons, right? Classic metal I was kind of raised on because I graduated high school in 1985. So I was right in the middle of the thrash era. But when I was growing up, it was like Judas Priest, Zeppelin, Deep Purple, Rush, you know. I wasn't as into Sabbath, but Sabbath was there, you know. And then the new wave of British heavy metal came through, which was Def Leppard and Iron Maiden. And I was an Iron Maiden person. And then I got into Iron Maiden. Bass player of Iron Maiden is great. So I was way into Maiden. Maiden got me into metal. And then the thrash era came out. And of course, Megadeth was great. I love Megadeth. And I was way into Megadeth. I then got into Anthrax, somewhat Metallica, never got into Slayer. But so of the big four, I was into the three, mainly Megadeth and Anthrax. I will say to date, I used to be Megadeth all the way, but Anthrax has surpassed them. I think they've been more consistent over time. And Dave Mustaine has been such a jerk over time for so long that it's almost begun to taint the music to me.
Have you heard of the band Queensryche or Queensryche?
Oh, yeah. I've seen Queensryche.
I grew up on them.
Okay.
I love them. They're great. My dad introduced me to them. Also introduced me to Linkin Park. I don't know why. It's just like it clicked that might be something that you probably grew up on as well. Probably didn't grow up on it, but probably around your adult.
Queensryche, when they came out, the Operation Mindcrime came out when I was in college. It's a little operatic for me, you know. And I will say, like, Alter Bridge is really good, and Sabotage. That's not generally what I gravitate to in metal. I like those two bands. Queensryche is good. I've got Operation Mindcrime, and I remember when that came out. It's not like top of the line. It's not like top tier stuff. I have a CD, and I like it enough to buy it. You know, I like, if I'm going to listen to operatic type stuff, I'd like to. Have you ever heard of Judas Priest and Rob Halford? Have you ever listened to Halford sing?
I don't think so. Is he?
He's the singer for Judas Priest. So I will. Here's another. Get your pen. So you get your yellow sticky. Write down Halford Resurrection Live Resurrection. That is unbelievable. So if you want to see, like, you want to hear the greatest, he's called the metal god, the greatest vocals ever. And it took me a long time to get into kind of guttural vocals. I'm still not a huge fan.
Roar.
You know. But Ginger got me into it. Ginger clicked. I clicked on that band. Of course, she sings operatically and then she sings gutturally. So it's a contrast, and she's kind of a unique talent. I generally don't like. I like at least some vocal tone to it, like Mastodon. You know, they're but they're not guttural. They're you know, even Megadeth. That guy's not a great singer, but he is character. You know who he's singing. You know. So it's hard. Like Meshuggah is nothing but.
That sounds like an early death for your throat kind of.
Well, there's a technique to do it. You're actually not using your vocal cords. You're using your false folds of your. So it's like this kind of thing. It's not your vocal cords are engaged. You're doing it wrong. There's a technique to it.
You know? That sounds like how it clicked. It's like how people with stomas sound in a way.
Yeah, like throat singing. You ever heard throat singing?
Like yodeling?
No. There's like Mongolian throat singing.
Right? Yeah, I've heard of that.
There's a technique to it. It's like I said. I'm not a huge fan. Ginger has that, but she is unique. I mean, I will say that I love her vocals, but she gives me a rest from it. So it's not that all the time. There's also, you know, it's dynamics. I like to hear dynamics, and Ginger's got a lot of that. I remember the moment that I tuned into them, because when I heard everybody listens to this song called Pisces, as the first time they listen to it. And that's cool because in the way that song unfolds is kind of like your first listening experience for Ginger because it's so surprising and there's such dynamics in it. But that's what I like about it. It's got dynamics and her lyrics are poetry. So listen to Pisces first because everybody listens to Pisces first. But when I listened to it, I was like, at first I didn't like it because it had that vocal style in it. But then I got into I was like, but you know that the songwriting, the lyrics, and the dynamics of it were such that I'm like, I know that I will like this if I invest some time. And a lot of times you listen to a live album or some of them live, you tune into the band. And so I listened to this band, I watched it on YouTube. There was something called Ginger Live in Melbourne. And about 20 minutes in, they do the song called I Speak Astronomy. And I was watching, I'm like, yeah, I get it. When I saw I Speak Astronomy live in Melbourne, there's this one point at which the band drops out and there's like a quiet moment and then she comes back and just kills it. And I'm like, that was great. You know, I was like, and at that point, it's like, you had one of these moments. It was interesting that I had a moment where like, now I love this band. It was like a revelatory moment. And all her lyrics are brilliant. Her lyrics are literally poetry.
I feel like
Anyway.
I'm going to like Ginger. I'm actually going to listen to them at some point after this.
Yeah, listen to Pisces live session on YouTube. And then I will recommend Ginger live in Melbourne. And you got to watch at least, you can skip to I Speak Astronomy or watch it through that. Because I don't want you to wig out on me. You have to be committed. Because I'll tell you, when I heard I Speak Astronomy live in Melbourne, that's when it clicked for me. I don't know if it would have the same effect if you skipped ahead or not, but she's great. And the band is great. You know, it's a gent band. And I talked about metal and gent. Meshuggah is the original gent band. So gent is very complex. Animals as leaders is gent.
Have you heard of Epica?
I've heard of them. I don't know them.
They're one of the I think I don't know the classification for them. I just listen to the music. I don't really like parse them out into genres in my head outside of like the general scope of them.
See, I like classical. I like jazz. I like electronic music. Tangerine Dream is one of my favorites. Like this here is classical soundtrack music. This is great. Excalibur. You ever seen the movie Excalibur?
I might have.
I think good job. He's reading. Okay, Just Yours. I hope you have pre-ordered Prepare because you're going to get it in the first batch. I will say that Excalibur, the movie, is quoted throughout this book. This is if you've read watch Excalibur, and there's a movie called The Fisher King with Robin Williams in it and Jeff Bridges. These two are companion books, and it will help. You've seen it. Okay, good. So Excalibur is quoted throughout my book in little like vignettes. Like here. Okay, I'll read you. I'll read you a portion from The Moral Imperative of Spending Your Time Wisely. Okay. See this rule right here?
Yeah.
That's a quote from Excalibur.
Is that the one quote where it's like King Arthur is afraid and Merlin takes him in and it's like, don't be afraid. There's a dragon around you.
Right.
It's life. It's chaos.
That was what you heard me read that, didn't you?
I did.
Okay. That's the movie Excalibur. But this is a different quote. Okay. And this has to do with the moral imperative of spending your time wisely. Right. So this is after King Arthur has defeated all the enemies of the Round Table, and everybody's celebrating. They're like, we've won, victory. And everybody's jostling around, and Merlin's getting bounced around with his staff, and he lights his staff, gets on fire. Right. Everybody's stunned. And he says, stand back, be silent, be still. That's it. Look upon this moment, savor it, rejoice with great gladness. Remember it always, for you were joined by it. You are one under the stars. Remember it well then, this night, this great victory, so that the years ahead you can say, I was there that night with Arthur, the king. For it is the doom of men that they forget. Very good. I love
I
it.
feel like Excalibur had a lot of inspirations from the Old Testament, because the way that reads almost sounds a lot like when God talks to Moses for the last time. It's like, the moment you forget my blessings, forget my power, my ability, the same power that brought you out of Egypt, will be the moment of your undoing.
Well, the myth of the Holy Grail and the King Arthur and the Holy Grail, right? That is what Excalibur is. It's a retelling of that myth. That myth is a statement about masculinity and man's quest for inner healing. It's a very important Christian Western myth to understand male direction. And it's been the most important. He, Just Sure, says he's read he. Oh, you are Just Sure. Are you female or are you male? Because if you're male, you should read he first, not she first. If you're female, then you're doing a read in the proper order, because everybody wants to read the other side's playbook. She helped me understand women, although I don't know if I really do. But they have a different life path and mission. Feminine conscious. Of course, all men have an animus. Okay, good. Thank you. Oh, thank God. You're reading it in the right order. Good for you. What did you think about she gestures? Do you find that it's truthful? Does it speak to the feminine? Does it explain the feminine balance? I was always confused by. I didn't understand women at all. Like I said, I don't know if I do it now. But one thing, when I talk she mythology with ladies, they're like, "Yeah, that's exactly right." And one of them is about the duality of women. That women are always, they have this duality with them. One is this woman of the home and hearth, of grain and feeding, and very simple, and then there's the Aphrodite, the woman of the strength and the sea and the power and emotion. And a woman's got these two sides to her in this duality, and her life path is a seeking of a balance between this duality, this polarity. And it doesn't resonate with me really at all, because I'm male and I have a male myth. Now there are men that, let's not get all politically correct about it, but there's an animus within man and an anima within man and an animus within man. And same thing with women. We have these two sides, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, she. Okay,
Or
I want you
just
to read she gestures. I hope you come over and comment, because I want to hear your feedback on it. Because to me, and when I talk about that duality, it resonates with women. They understand that, and it helped me. It helped me protect myself against some of these women tools and weaponry that they have. Women have weaponry, because like, here's another little bit from she. And you, as a legal layman, you need to read this. You need to read he first if you're a man, and then read she.
I got it written down. It's
okay.
It's on my.
Because you want to learn about the other side, right? And it helped me, because I was in an office full of women at one point in my life, and women have these two tools. One is they have a lantern, and they also have a knife. Okay, and there's a myth around this, but let's just talk about the tools. And the knife is very powerful. And the knife, they can cut and slash and destroy with a knife. And women have this, and they can destroy, and they can cut the man. And men do not have a defense against the knife. They can cut and slash, and you just, like, you're vulnerable, you're open, your heart's getting slashed, right?
Sounds like a tonberry.
Huh?
Sounds like a tonberry.
And they also have the lantern, though. And the lantern is a soft, glowing warmth that illuminates and guides and gives direction and illumination. And men crave that lantern from women. They want that worth, and they will suffer 1,000 slices with a knife to get a little bit of that lantern. All right. Now, a wise woman, as she matures, learns to put the knife away and to use the lantern as a tool of healing and construction, rather than the female weapon. And the thing is, when you see women and get in an office environment, they start slashing at each other with a man, and you're like, get my head down, because you can't deal with it. You can't battle that. It's a feminine. And I see this a lot of women lawyers. Now, I will say, I'll contrast. Good women lawyers are not this way. But a bad women lawyer, a lot of times, they will use this knife as a weapon of destruction. Their tongue is sharp and they're cutting and they're slashing, right? And they think, well, when a woman does it, she's called a bitch. A man does it and she's strong. He's strong, right? And they feel that this is unjust. They think that the knife is a male force because it's powerful. And women see the power and they test this out on men and they know it's powerful. But it's not a male gift. It is a female power. And so they are not operating as a man in a man's world and getting criticized for it. They are using a feminine tool in a masculine environment. That's why they get called on that. And so this is often a mistake that a lot of women in a professional setting do. That's why they get that comeback. So you can be feminine. I have some great, if you want to see a great lawyer, look at my friend Rosemary Peoples. She's a great feminine lawyer and knows how to do it right. And she's the best trial attorney I've ever been around, bar none. And she's a woman, so it's not like women are barred from being in the law. The key is to understand yourself and understand what tools are appropriate in what settings. So, but as a man, it's good to know that, because when you're getting cut by the knife, at least you understand where it's coming from, and you can say, okay, that's the knife, and then you're like, it still hurts, but you recognize what it is.
Yeah. I realized something throughout this interview.
Danny Direct. Yeah, Danny On is another one. It's got a lot of light, a lot of feminine. A mature woman learns to use her lantern as a tool of healing and building in the world, and men crave that. Women need to use that. Mimi, hey Mimi made it.
Huh? Man, I think I might need to pull up the YouTube chat itself, because I'm still in the.
I always sideline it over on the side, so I'm checking out Mimi's here. It's just our local, just our pals. It's just a little tiny stream, but it's fun. This is your first stream. I'm proud that you invited me on for your first stream.
First interview.
Okay. Well, you did one other stream before this.
Yeah, I had time and I had a lot of feelings on the Aaron Dean thing. I had an interesting perspective because I was in the courtroom when the verdict came down.
Oh, really?
I was trying to be the guy that's like, Andrew, verdict's in, prepare everybody. But my phone was like 2%. So I was like, damn it. And besides, I think by the time I texted it out, it was already announced by the major news things for the area. It's like, hey, verdict's in. It's like,
what did you think about my breakdown of the closing arguments in that trial?
I need to go back to it. It's been like 4 months.
Come on now, you got to go back. I spent a lot of time on that. Bronca and I.
In the video, I mentioned something you mentioned from your book that was I remember the live reaction. I don't remember the post. If you did like a post,
I broke it down in a very organized way. What happened was Bronca did this thing about like he told me to like write down all of the objections. So I did. I wrote down. It came out to like 150 plus objections to her closing argument.
What was it, like golden standard?
Golden rule violation.
Golden rule violation.
Basically, there was only, I think, 1 or 2 sentences in the entire closing argument that was not objectionable. It was so bad. And he put a little buzzer, like bing, 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 like that. And then I did a review and went through it very methodically, because that was entertaining. And then mine was more educational. But yeah, the closing argument, that was everything. In fact, I actually quote her in my book, her closing argument in Prepare. Let me see here.
The Aaron Dean prosecution?
Yes.
Oh no.
Yeah, here it is. Let me see here.
Were the lines that were not objection?
It's from this chapter. I can't spoil the whole thing, but it's about preparing for emergencies by building your homestead.
Your home is your castle in good times and in bad.
Right. And so I was talking about being a home. And so I said, what is your home? This is a little humor here. Home is cuddling up under a warm blanket as the rain falls. The smell of home cooking, the
Oh,
feet of, wait a second, hey, you guys are fans, right? Why not use the prosecutor's closing argument in the R&D trial to tell us about home? It says, when you think about your house, you think about safety. It's where you go to retreat, to get away from the world. It's where you grow up. It's where you have kids. It's where we mark the inside of our doorway when they've gotten taller and taller. It's where we make memories. That's why it's so sacred. That's why it's so important. How many of us are during the Thanksgiving holiday, we're in our own kitchen celebrating with our family? Christmas right now. How many of us right now have a Christmas tree in our living room? Why do we do that? We put Christmas lights outside our house. Why do we decorate our homes? Because they're ours, right? Because they're so important. That's from her. So I said, okay to that.
I'm
But let's go a
remembering
different
all
way.
of this as you say it, and it's like, so annoying.
Yeah,
I
it is annoying. But, I think that's a valid, sappy view of home.
yeah, it's a good way to define home, but not for a trial.
But then I went to Gustav Stickley. I don't know if you know who Gustav Stickley is.
No, but it sounds like a very stern name.
Yes, well, he was the progenitor of the mission style of arts and crafts movement of furniture in the United States. Here's his quote that I move into. Comes to me every day of my life that a home spirit is being awakened among us. That as a nation, we are beginning to realize how important it is to have homes of our own, homes that we like, that we have been instrumental in building, that we want to have belong to our children. That's better. That's a little more profound than the sappy prosecutor. I collect Stickley furniture. This that's a Stickley piece right there. It's built in it's handmade furniture made up in Mount Manlius, New York. It's a very particular type of furniture. In fact, this cabinet here that you can't see is Stickley. Yeah, Mimi's here. Hi, Mimi.
I realized a couple things, because this is a new environment.
Mm-hmm.
Just talking to a screen, my inclination to try to meet eye contact is disturbed, because eye contact, at least
This is eye contact.
Yeah, this is eye contact, but you're there in the screen, and it's trying to maintain that normal sense of talking feels almost impossible in a situation like
You're
this.
in good hands. Don't worry, you're fine. Nobody cares. I mean,
And
I read the chat a lot of times, and I actually, you don't know, I multitask. I check my email while I'm talking.
I tried doing stuff like that, or I was doing it, and I realized it might seem rude to my guest if I'm just
Yeah, but then people don't even know.
well, you can hear hold on. Can you hear that?
Yeah.
Yeah, you could probably tell. I don't know what I did to my program then. I made the thumbnail for this video. I took a screenshot from one of your previous streams, caught you with a good smile, hopefully caught you in a flattering light. Well, it's one of your
this mug. It's like there's only so much you can do with it, so I just go with it.
I'll here share screen. Screen sharing is easy. 2 monitors, okay.
I need to come up with my next stream, what I'm going to talk about.
So yeah, this is the
Oh, I like the you got this.
I went, and for this I put the noise on it. I like red, and I figured for you I do green.
Sure.
In fact, I chose this green right here.
Very nice.
And that's how I designed the this one. I'm starting to try to design a normal thumbnail, and this is how it's gonna look. Something to this effect. Maybe without this. Maybe I might use I might catch a frame of me in this interview and use that as the thing. But yeah, that's about as much as I can make.
Well, you just do what you got to do. I'm just here to prep it up. My throat's getting a little itchy here.
Drink water. Drink
What
water.
did you have other questions? I don't want to. I don't want to. I've been dominating it here, talking about all this crazy stuff. That's what I usually do. I come over, take over. Get out of the way. I'll take over here.
Yeah, that was. I think at some point I realized I forgot my place while doing this because I'm so used to watching that it's like at some point I forgot that I'm the interviewer here. And
Well,
it's like,
but I don't.
oh wait, I need to
It's a
talk.
conversation. It's not. It doesn't have to be an interview. Just Jurors says that we're only $28 away from making the goal at the Kickstarter program for the walk.
Holy shit! I gotta wait till like 10:30 tonight to because that's when my paycheck kicks in. But
Well, you can go over. It's not like it's over when it's over. I mean, I think it's got 12 more days or whatever. But that's great. So it means it's going to happen. Yeah, Tom's been working up all the cards, and I've been
that
feeding him ideas.
guy has a mission, and I guess it's fun.
He is funny. He is a funny. He's got this. You want to go something like I was cracking up so hard. He's got this droll sense of humor. Like his first videos on Farmhand Tom are him like Tom's suggestions for how to like home improvement suggestions. And it's like how to find a stud in the wall if you don't have one of those fancy stud finders, right?
Yeah.
And so he's like, okay, well, see, all I do, I just take a nail and I just hammer it in, and if it doesn't go through, and I move it over about 3 inches, and I hammer it in again, until I keep doing that until I hit. Say, and it's got like, it is funny because his wall, it's like there's like 10 holes where he's done this. He's like, and then you don't have to fill the holes in. I mean, he's got this funny sense of humor, like just about all these harebrained like things that he's done on his house. It's just a disaster, but he makes it funny.
Yeah, I've been meaning to watch that was it 3-part interview with him.
Yes,
but I think along the way of while working, I just kind of like I wasn't feeling it, so I haven't watched it yet.
I think the third part is where we really get. That's where he interviews me, because I wanted to interview Farmhand Tom because he's so funny, and I'm so interested. He was putting all these funny memes, putting my face on prints, and it was cracking me up. And so I'm like, I gotta interview this guy. So I was like revealed Farmhand. So I keep trying to interview him, and he keeps turning it around on me. Tell me about you guys. I'm interested in you. So I was like, okay, we're cutting this out. So then the next time I was like, well, people keep asking me questions. So I said, Tom, you interview me. And so that's what he did. And he did a 3-part. I think the third part, about the end of the second time, and the third part, we kind of really started rolling with what I like to talk about, which is philosophy and stuff like that. That's great. Thank you, Just Jurors. That's great.
Oh,
are you Just Jurors on Rumble also? I don't recognize you, but you're here, and you seem awful in tune with what's going on.
Highly likely. I know
you with some other name.
But yeah,
because Mimi, I know Mimi, right?
I don't think
Danielle.
So. I don't really know your chat, or I don't know the chat so much.
See, I recognize. You gotta get to know these folks. These are good folks.
Hopefully I can. Oh, what? Do you have any thoughts on the Crumbly Parents Court of Appeals rejected?
Well, a lot of times, see, that was an interlocutory appeal. So if you want to ask about the Crumbly Parents, I don't know. I haven't followed that case, but from what I understand is that this kid did kind of shoot him up at school, and they're getting held liable through some sort of vicarious liability, criminal liability for allowing him access to guns. So that's what it is. The thing is that what I don't know. I mean, I haven't had that case. So it's one of those things like when I get into appeals, I do, like the things that when they hit me, then I analyze them. So that would be a question, whether or not a parent can be vicariously liable for it. You'd have to look at the text of the statute. You'd have to look at, there's a lot of questions there. And it would also be very state law driven, I think. And what they're dealing is they were turned down on their interlocutory appeal, but that means during the pendency of the trial. So they haven't been convicted yet. They're trying to stop the trial from going forward. All right. And
Just jurors.
so that they're allowing the trial to go forward. That doesn't mean they can't get a remedy after the conviction. I think my wife just showed up with the pizza, so we're gonna have to cut it down here. But you're not dominating. You know, we don't have. This is a small little group. This is the fun thing. All my favorite folks are here, just the fans. You know, I everybody's like, oh, you know, you got to go on these big channels with 1,000 viewers, 100,000 viewers, or like. But you know, I like talking with individuals. Like these are my favorite people.
Yeah,
And
you prove it more or less by joining my little small hut over here on my side of Texas in this interview.
Well, it's neat, you know. Well, people like fans, they reach out. I'm just blessed and honored. Danielle, Mimi, Just Jurors. These are people that are buddies, and you reached out to me, and you know, you wanted me on your first Rumble interview live stream or YouTube. Are you on YouTube? Are you on Rumble and YouTube, or both?
I'm on YouTube, but it auto syncs to Rumble, so you'll watch you can watch the replay on Rumble, but not it's not
Is it
live streamed.
chat on Rumble? I should be watching the chat in Rumble. Sorry,
Rumble live chat, it doesn't really convey it. Rumble doesn't save the live chat.
I know, that sucks. Hey, I've got to go. Wife just got home.
Thank you for joining me. I would be happy to have you back some other time. I'd be happy to just talk.
Yeah, well,
without the interview.
Questions. We'll see. We'll talk.
Yeah,
I've got so much lined up. You don't even know. It's crazy, but it was a pleasure. But I'll talk to you later. All right. God bless you. Good job, chat. I love seeing you guys. We'll see.
If I get to have you again, I'll probably have a list with more like a list and a more aggressive approach. Be like, hey, here's my topics.
Right.
But yeah, this was just the nice, friendly conversation that I wanted.
Yes, it was good talking to you, man. God bless.
Yeah. Hang loose. Oh, take care. I had a lot of fun with that. Thank you guys for coming to watch that. Watch this, watch that. It's a unique experience trying to go from audience to the creator of the content. So I'm pretty happy that I got to enjoy talking to Gosney. Thank you very much, Gosney, for coming on and letting me borrow some of your time. Thank you, Sadie. We didn't get to talk so much. Well, I think we did actually. We did talk about the crowd surfing that you wanted. I'm probably going to wrap this up pretty quickly because my brother is dying right over there in this heat. I basically monopolized the room for this one thing. So yes, I'm definitely going to do a stream tomorrow. Probably towards I normally wake up at 6 p.m. Central. So I'm probably going to do either an early wake up or wake up when I normally do and do the interview or I'm interviewing manager right now. I'm going to do another video then. And hopefully I'll get to talk more. I'm probably going to do a follow-up to my Aaron Dean video that I did, because I want to actually hit on what I talked about. I mentioned the principles of self-defense, but I didn't actually mention all 5 of the principles or elements. So I'm probably going to go back over that. And tomorrow, oh yeah, I was going to mention the Tanner Horner situation. I'm going to look more into it. My job actually allows me this opportunity to look at it more often because it puts it back in my mind, because we refuel at a gas station and I go in and actually look at a newspaper for the headlines just to see what's happening. I don't go to Google News or Yahoo News or whatever. My news sources end up being Twitter or this newspaper or Star Telegram. So yeah, Yeah, it's sweltering, and I wanna start getting the airflow back in this room. So that's probably it for me. Thank you guys from Gosney's chat. Thank you for coming by and talking to me. I know he was the star of the show today. I was very happy to have him. I'm hoping to have him on again sometime soon-ish when he's done with his current case. Wish him luck on that. But yeah, and I'm probably gonna catch some sleep because I woke up pretty rugged. So yeah, thank you for coming to the show. I had a lot of fun. Hopefully we'll get to do this again, and I hope to see you guys in another stream, my next one. So yeah, hang loose, guys.